criticism shuts things down. When you're comparing and criticizing, you're not getting solutions. You're just shutting things down. Whereas curiosity, like you're opening yourself up for opportunities, for transformation, for things to open up. And then in turn, now your kids are watching you. But the cost of me healing, if I hadn't have healed myself, I would have just been the critical version and been stomping around and yelling, and that wouldn't have helped him. Instead, now we both got a much better result. Is it a perfect result? Obviously not, because listen to the struggles I've gone through and I'm still learning, right? So I guess that's what's really important to me is like curiosity is going to open it up and make opportunity available.
Hi, I'm Jen.
Hey, I'm Suzanne, and today we are talking about changing the lens that you look at stuff from critical to curious.
I love this.
So I was in therapy for like a very long time. I don't even know how many years. And if you've listened to any prior episode, friends, you know I come very much like gold star chaser, achievement, and comparison. And oftentimes that leads to criticism of myself, and oftentimes myself. It's generally not the people around me. It's generally myself. But what I started to find with time is that I also was applying that same thing to my family, to my husband, to my kids. And I'll talk a little bit more about it. But when I was in therapy, I remember my therapist said, Suzanne, you're so critical. Have you ever thought about being more curious? And I had the most visceral reaction. I mean, my whole body got like angry. And I remember at the time being like, that's just stupid. Why would I think about being curious? Like, I have stuff to work out here, lady. Like, what's curiosity going to do for me? And I mean, she probably brought it up, I want to say like 8 to 10 more times before I could even hear the word. Well, now I know when I have that big of a reaction to a word, like, whew, yeah, there's a lot more going on there. And in turn, I subsequently learned there's a lot more going on there. And when she meant that, it was like, hey, so instead of internally looking at myself, or if there's a situation, right? Like so here's just a current story. My son had applied to be in this program for school, for high school. And he texted me one day and he's like, Mom, I don't think I got into the program because everyone else got envelopes today and I didn't get one, like a congratulatory envelope. And the first thoughts I had were disappointment for him, sad for him. Then my problem solver starts in like, okay, so what are we going to do here? Are we going to do this? Or like, what's that going to look like for his freshman year? Like, and then I got angry because I was like, who are these people not to accept my son into this program? And what the, you know? And then I got to victim. Like, why does this always happen to us? Why does this always happen to him? Like, this is so unfair. The world is so unfair. And then it got to anger. Screw these people. Like, now they're the villains, right? Like, ugh, these people are awful. He never wanted to be in that program to begin with, right? And I'm doing that silent observer thing that I do, which is, it's like I'm outside my body. We talk about this, watching my behavior, right? And it happens instantaneously. Like, this is a conversation that occurs in probably less than 30 seconds, right? I go through all of these things pretty quickly. Then I start to get critical, right? Of what could I have done better? How could I have helped him get into this program? And then I turn it, like I said, I go from myself to my kids. Well, you know, if he was doing better in school, if he would have, you know, maybe he had to interview better, like what could he have done better in his interview? Is this going to screw up his entire high school life? And you just sit there. And I was sitting there going, whoa. And I literally had to take a minute and be like, Suzanne, one, breathe. Okay. And then it was like, can we get curious about this? Like, you immediately went to, because then, I knew a friend of his had gotten into the program. And so, as we say, like, so embarrassing, I'm like, well, why would he get into the program and not my son? And I start pointing out in my head, like, flaws of his, like, well, he didn't do that well on this. And I'm like, whoa. And so when I say I go from critical to curious, this is the shift right here. I've now discovered whoa, Suzanne, we have gone back to our critical comparison self. Let's get to our curious self. And so here's the shift, me being curious and being like, okay, let's take a breath. Like, first, is it possible that he just didn't get an envelope and he actually got into the program? If not, okay, then we need to just like maybe make a shift. But we don't need to go comparison and critical to anyone else. You certainly don't need to start taking down his friend who's a great kid and super smart, right? Like, let's take a breath. And then I felt him, like he was texting me, like, and I felt because of, I think I've been critical for so long and comparison based. And I think it is human nature as well. And I think it's the culture we live in. He's sending me text messages being like, well, mom, what if I didn't get in the program? Do you think I didn't do well in the interview? Like, what do you think that the reason? And I'm seeing myself reflected, my little mirror of a child, back at me. And I was sad in that moment because I was like, oh man, like this is it, Suzanne. And the good news is, again, it's happening pretty fast. Like we're in this text. And I just wrote to him, it doesn't matter. You'll be okay. That's just what I wrote to him. I said, all of these questions, we can absolutely be curious, but like, we'll talk about it when you get home. But in the end, you'll be okay. And he wrote back, thanks, mom. And now I'm like, went from being sad to being like, heck yeah, Suzanne, that's how you parent. like proud of myself to be like, because ultimately I was able to be like, it doesn't matter what happens with this program. Like, we're going to be okay. It doesn't mean that there's not time to be curious about it. It doesn't mean that there's not time to look at what happened, look at the facts. But this emotion here, like, this is that critical side of you speaking. And that doesn't help anyone in this situation. I don't know. Have you had an experience? And I'll finish the rest of the story after that. But have you had an experience like that?
I have so much to say on this whole thing. I have just been over here like, I have so many. Speaking of curious, I have so many questions.
Do we just be like, this is such a big sister moment? So anyone listening, like, this is how it goes with us. Like, this is why we have the podcast. Jen gets a certain look in her eye, and I can just feel it from a mile away. I don't even have to see it. I can hear the change in her breath, and I know like it's coming. So buckle up, people. Here we go. Yes, Jen?
Yes, I have so many questions. So, one, good job transferring yourself from
thank you
being the victim, discovering, shifting, and then obviously empowering him, yourself and him. So let's just say yay for that whole process.
Thank you.
But I think that, and I know you want to talk about the curiosity versus, like I always say, defensiveness or criticalness. They're all kind of the same thing. It's just whatever your face forwarding is. Like everybody has different defense mechanisms. So some people it's like being critical in comparison. Some people it's like you're just immediately defensive. Like you'll just die on the hill to be right just because, you know, like everybody has like their different thing versus being curious. So what I would have said is, and you kind of got to it towards the end, is that this is a great example of when we make like data have meaning about who we are.
True.
Like whether he got in or not is not a reflection of the amazing person that he is or the good mom that you are to him, but we immediately give things meaning when things don't go our way or go our way. And we've kind of talked about this in many other, but it's, to me, that's all I heard. Like I was immediately zeroed in on like, this is just data. Like, where are we going with this? Like, that's too many emotions for data. Like, we don't know anything yet, right?
But isn't that what being curious is you take your emotion, to me, that's the difference, is you take your emotion out of it. Being critical is having all your emotion in it. Being curious is taking the emotion out of it and being like, what are the facts? What's the data we're dealing with?
Yes, but I think the first thing in order to be able to transition into curiosity, true curiosity, not like, because you and I know there's people that pretend they're curious. They're like, well, just explain to me why this doesn't work out. But they have no intention of wanting to understand what you're coming. They're just using questions, but it's not genuine. There's not a genuine need to understand like where those questions are leading. But I think if you truly believe that the outcome is a reflection of you, like that, not getting in, if he did or didn't, we don't know yet. Can't wait for the end of the story. Whether he did or didn't doesn't mean that there's something wrong with him. And I think
Yeah.
like you have to get out of the mindset that everything has meaning and that meaning is a reflection of you. Like it has nothing to do with your worth because
Yeah.
the emotional reaction, it's attacking some sort of meaning inside you of like worthiness or security or being good enough or something. Otherwise, you wouldn't have that emotional reaction. So I think the first thing is being able to say, like, to our kids, especially to ourselves as well. But when we say it to our kids, we also reinforce it with ourselves,
For
which is
sure.
why I think you and I talk a lot about saying it to your kids because it's so much easier to say to them than it
Yeah.
is to say to our, well, I'm 50 or near 50 self who's been
Yeah.
living with this hard wiring for so long. This is not a reflection of you're good enough. And then the next thing is once you already have identified that like those two are completely separate, you're already enough worthy, all of the things, whether you get into this program or not. Yes, you want to be in that program. So because you have a want and a desire to be in the program, then you can be curious, like you said, of like, did we for sure not get in? Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a way we can get information instead of guessing, like, did I not interview well? Did I not do this? Like, where's the place we can go for the information to understand? Is there another opportunity to get into said program? And then at the end of the day, because I have my faith, I'm like, well, that just wasn't for me. If I did 100% everything I could do and I put forward my full effort and I don't get in, it wasn't meant for me. It's not for me. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the last part.
Agreed.
That whether you believe, I believe in God, but even if you believe in the universe, like a true understanding that if you do everything you can and you don't get something, it wasn't meant for you. But you have to really embrace that at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's the understanding. The first thing is the understanding that your failures are not you. They're not a reflection of your worth. So separating those things is huge. Then being curious, truly, genuinely curious, if it's still something you desire. And then ultimately, if you did all the things, it wasn't meant for you. And there's something better for you. It's not, it just wasn't meant for you. There is something literally better for you. Or if you were here, this door can't open. Like there's some sort of ordered steps for you that like this isn't part of your path. And you can
Yeah.
only see it when you look back. You can't see it moving forward because you're like, I'm devastated. And you and I can talk about all the things we've been devastated about. We should actually do a podcast on that.
Yeah.
And then when you look back, you're like, oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, duh. Yeah, right.
Well, one was
and you're
just our last episode when we were talking about when COVID hit and
oh, yeah.
basically my life blew out. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a good episode. We'll put it in the show notes. But yeah, it ended up being a blessing. But yeah, no, yeah.
So I think that like when I listened to you, I heard so much of like exactly what I'm saying. So I'm repeating some of the stuff, but it's really like breaking it down because that's one of the things we want to do on the show is to help people do it for themselves. Yeah. And I think to your point of like being curious, like, oh, be curious. You're like, I'm not paying $250 an hour to be curious, lady. You're supposed to be telling me like what I'm supposed to be doing. Fix it. I'm paying the money, right? But that's just not how it works. It's not how any of this works, as they say. So having those tools of having those three things, and they're all truly like three full-fledged beliefs that are very separate from each other. They're all intertwined. But if you're missing any of the three, it's really hard to move forward and you stay stuck. So like you have to start working on those now because they don't come naturally.
Well, ironically, I mean, I'm laughing, right? Here we have episodes on it, me talking about it. And of all the things I think I got there eventually, but I didn't identify specifically what it was. And also I think it's a perfect example of how all these different things, like it can be multifaceted, right? And like, this is why we talk about having a sisterhood, by the way, guys. Like it's hard to come up with these things on your own. Like, yes, we can all do the work on our own, but having someone to talk to about it that is on a journey as well and like wants to understand themselves and feel better about themselves. Like, this is why we talk about a sisterhood. Like, this was just a perfect example. And ultimately, I had come to the conclusion because now a week goes by and we're like, okay, he never got the envelope. We're like, okay. So I had just said to him, like, look, I'll reach out to see if I can find out who the program director is. And so we can get more information like we talked about, so we can get some facts. But in the interim, like we need to plan accordingly. And we had a conversation where he was like, but mom, like this just sucks. And so we got into the conversation about like but it's just not meant for you. Like it's obviously because we talk so often, we have similar
Yes.
words. So I was like, it's just
Yes.
not meant for you. And like, we'll see what the future brings, and that's okay. And ironically, as it so happens, we get to a point where we're comfortable with him not getting into the program. We're talking about other options. He's getting excited about a separate option that we hadn't originally even known was available. And then we get a phone call and we're like, oh my gosh, there was a mistake. My son, that the envelope for him got lost and got redirected to like the wrong teacher.
Unbelievable.
I get that email from the front office being like, so please tell him he can pick up the envelope. Oh, and congratulations. And then
Uh-huh.
two, I get an email back from the program director being like, oh no, your son's in the program and I don't know what happened, but I'll look into it. And we're excited to have him. And so then I go to tell him like, oh, great news. And by this point, he's like,
maybe I want the other thing.
that's what he said.
Stop it.
Oh, yeah. He's like, oh, well, mom, after all of this, like maybe that program wasn't meant for me. And to tell you the truth, he's now contemplating two different options that would have never been, you know, and again, it was like we talked about, like you're so focused on getting into the program and what it could do for you. It doesn't even become necessarily about the program as much as it becomes about the getting in and being accepted.
Yeah.
And right. And it brings up
Yes.
all those
Yes.
other things. So it's like you put those blinders on, right? So
Mhm.
it's like in that moment, I was talking to him about being curious. It's okay for us to have big emotions and to be sad, you know, you didn't get into the program. And
Yes.
be like, oh man, my friend got in. And then you have the comparison between you and your friend.
Yes.
I was like,
of course.
I have all of these thoughts too. But at the end of the day, like, did you do everything you could do? And he's like, yeah, I did. And I said, did you feel like your interview went well? He's like, yeah, I did. I was like, okay, then we've done what we can do. And so
Yeah.
again, now that you have a huge perspective shift for him at the end of the day
Mhm.
as well,
Mhm.
all because we took that like comparison, critical defensiveness and
Original freak out.
original freak out, which again, I
Yeah.
don't think ever going to go away. And like,
Yeah.
that's just part of being, I think, a human being to some extent.
Being
And
rejected.
being rejected. And I hope it lessens with time and the more we keep doing this
Yeah.
stuff, and that we're not so connected to those outcomes. Obviously, I'm still struggling with my worth, right? Like that, like you
Mhm.
said, it triggered something in me that like he's not good enough. So therefore I'm not good enough. And we're all, you know, like it comes up fast and hot. It's not going
Yeah.
away. But to get to that curiosity more quickly, to know that like him and I can have that conversation and then he gets to it more quickly. And now we're not all walking around the house being like, oh my gosh, like, because I'm
He
telling you,
didn't get in.
in prior years, this would have been like
Yeah.
an issue and we would have involved the whole house. And I would, again, talk to you about it and my friends and da da da. And here we are, we're
100%.
talking about it for the first time. And this happened, you know, 2 weeks ago. So
Yep.
hashtag growth.
Hashtag growth. I'd also like to say is this is such a cool thing to do with your kids, because when you're walking through this, like you can, like we always say, manage back, but you can manage back. Like
Yeah.
when something else, because right, you're always going to be rejected. You're always going to have doors shut in your face. And the sooner you realize that doors being shut in your face are actually a gift, the better. But unfortunately, we're all human and we just live in our emotions at first. And so we can't see that it's being shut on purpose. But he's going to be rejected again. And maybe it's going to be even bigger deal to him, right? Like, there's going to be
Sure.
huge rejections in your life, like big breakups, not getting into the college you want. I mean, like not getting jobs you want, like big,
Yeah.
big things. And you can be like, hey, remember when we thought you didn't get into this? And he's like, that's not the same. And you're like, yeah, but do you remember how then we had this time? And then you got to a point where you're like, oh, I've been given this gift of time to now find out that there's a whole other program that I might want more. And regardless of what he ends up choosing, it's such an amazing life lesson because it happened to him.
Yep.
It
Yep.
was his story. You were just there. You're like the supporting character going, okay, this is how we should handle it. This is why. And then what you said was going to happen actually happened.
Yeah.
So he trusts you. He trusts the
Sure.
process. And he has something that's like tangible that's his to manage back to, that you can remind him of. He can remind himself like, hey, remember when this happened? Like maybe I can have like that little bit of faith that it's happening again. And I don't know what it's going to look like,
Mhm.
but I do know at the end, it's going to be for my good, right?
Yeah.
Like at the end, I can trust because, you know, he's going to have this one and then another one. And then pretty soon you have so many of them that you're like,
Yeah.
well, this sucks.
Yeah. Well,
But hey,
but I think if we're talking about the cost of not healing, like the cost
yeah,
of staying where you're at right now, this would have been a
yeah.
cost. Because
Oh,
previously, and if I'm wrapping up, when I'm wrapping up here, like criticism
yeah,
shuts things down. When you're comparing and
yeah.
criticizing, you're not getting solutions. You're just shutting things down. Whereas curiosity, like you're opening yourself up for opportunities, for
That's such a good way to
transformation,
put it.
for things to open up. And then in turn, now your kids are watching you. But the cost
Hmm.
of me healing, if I hadn't have healed myself, I would have just
Hmm.
been the critical version and been stomping around and yelling, and that wouldn't have helped him.
Hmm.
Instead, now we both got a much better result. Is it a perfect result? Obviously not, because listen to the struggles I've going through and I'm still learning, right? So
Hmm.
I guess that's what's really important to me is like curiosity is going to open it up and make opportunity available.
And curiosity, to your point, when you just said that, like triggered something like a visual for me, because I'm very visual. When you're curious, you're opening yourself up for other information, but not just that, because you've opened yourself up, you're opening yourself up to ideas
Mm-hmm.
of different things that could be meant for you.
Yep.
So it literally like changes your, like, I guess, physicality, like the, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
instead of being like you just said, like when you're critical and comparison, like you're literally closing your body down and then you stay stuck
Mm-hmm.
and you stay stuck. Like you said, you'd been stuck there for a
Yeah.
week
It's like a
and
dam.
he
You
would
put
have,
the dam on the
yeah.
water of ideas and then it opens up.
And you would have never looked for other options. It would
Yeah.
have just been like, well, you didn't get that, so now we're
Yeah.
just screwed. And like, I guess you're just gonna have to, go into freshman year with not being in this amazing program. And he feels like a
Yeah.
failure, you feel like a failure, and then that's like what everybody took from it,
Yeah.
which is so sad. I mean, it seems so obvious when you and I are sitting here talking
Sure.
about it, because it's like, well, yeah, duh. But I think to the listener, it's like, where have you done that before? Like, what's a
Mm-hmm.
recent thing, big or small, where you just allowed it to be a failure? You stayed stuck and you didn't move forward. Like, literally, that period end. That was your story on a specific something that happened to you.
Yeah.
And looking back, because it's always easy looking back, what could you have been curious about, right? So, like, identifying where you're shutting down, but then also, like, not even in the moment, just like, oh, could I have been more curious? Could I have asked different questions? Like, what would that have looked like? And I think that helps you do it for the next time. But I would definitely say, we're going to put it in the show notes, the 3 beliefs, which is your failures are not who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Curiosity opens you up.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third one is God's plan is always better than your plan, or the universe, or whatever, is just
Mm-hmm.
truly understanding that if a door shuts, it's because it's meant to shut if you did everything you were supposed to. And I think
Yep.
those 3 core beliefs are huge for anybody whether you're on your healing journey or not.
For sure. Yeah.
So that's it for today.
We hope you discovered something in my story.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.